Because RFID technology is not just one technology, but several technologies that all have similar applications, it's difficult to determine just one origin for it. A common starting point is a paper that was written by Harry Stockman in 1948 called Communication by Means of Reflected Power. The experiments in the 1930s and 1940s also played a role, but the big one was when radar technology, which is using a frequency to locate objects, was merged with the identification friend or foe system during World War II. This enabled not only recognition that an object existed, it also allowed for identification of whether or not the object was friend or foe. It told them what it was. The primary use of RFID technology is in inventory management. However, for this purpose, the tags are often attached to pallets or boxes, not individual items, which means that as soon as items are removed from these pallets or boxes, the RFID tag no longer functions to keep track of them. This would not work in a library. An RFID tag is needed for each and every object that can be checked out. RFID is also used in many other ways. It's used for public transportation system like bus passes and MARTA passes. It can also be used for animal identification and in payment systems for toll roads. It was only in the 1990s that libraries began to adopt this technology. Some of the reasons for this have been suggested to be the startup costs and the sort of stigma that libraries don't adapt to technology well. Using a power source as an identifier of different type of RFID tags will result in three classifications: passive, semi-passive, which is also sometimes called semi-active, and active. Passive tags don't have a power source of their own. They rely on the electromagnetic field generated by the reader for the information in them to be revealed. Semi-passive tags have a small internal power source, and active tags have the largest power source, so they're a little bit bulkier. They're also the most expensive, but the trade-off is they read from further away, sometimes up to 100 meters, and they also read faster. Across the bottom you can see examples of the different types. The one on the left is passive, the one on the right is active. When determining types of RFID tags based on their write or rewrite capabilities, there are three types. There's read-only, worm, and write-rewrite. Read-only is akin to something like a newspaper. The information is put on at the manufacturer when the item is created. This means that the user, the institution that gets it, cannot have any effect on the information that is presented in the tag. Much like a newspaper, they can read the information there, but they have no input. Worm, write once, read many, is a tag that comes blank to the user, the institution that's going to use it. They can put static information on it, such as an identification number, maybe the title of the book, the author, maybe a little bit more. But once that information is on there, they can never alter it again. This is kind of like writing in an ink pen, assuming there's no whiteout or anything. Once it's there to stay. RFID tags with write-rewrite capabilities are much like writing in pencil. You can write it down, you can erase some or all of it, and rewrite something completely new. This type of tag you can put static information on, but you can also put information that pertains to item status, such as whether it's checked in, checked out, or even off being cataloged. Some of the uses of RFID technology in the library are in check-in, check-out security and inventory control. RFID can enable self-checkout It allows patrons to take their books and check them in or out without a staff member needing to be present. It also allows patrons who still want to have a staff member check them in or out do so more quickly, because unlike barcodes, which are the current identification used on most books in libraries, RFID readers don't require a direct line of sight. They can just be in the general vicinity. This same characteristic allows staff members to obtain fewer repetitive motion injuries because they aren't flipping the books over looking for the barcodes. They just need to stack them. The RFID tag will check them in or out, and everything will move along. As far as security goes, RFID tags are very similar to electromagnetic strips, with the added advantage that they combine security and item information in one little tag. On the downside, they aren't quite as strong as electromagnetic strips, so that's something a library would need to consider before using them as security. RFID tags also work as an inventory control. Depending on what type of tag a library chooses to use, the RFID can act as a sort of general locator, which is very useful when books are misshelved or misplaced, because it enables staff to, first of all, recognize that an item is in the incorrect spot, and also to find it and move it back where it goes more quickly. The two biggest obstacles to RFID implementation are, for libraries, the startup costs, and for patrons, the privacy concerns associated with this kind of technology. Even though each RFID tag only costs 75 cents or so, when you multiply that by the number of materials in a library that will need an RFID tag affixed to them, the costs really add up. For patrons, most of them are just a little bit frightened because they don't understand the capabilities of RFID. So one way to handle this is by explaining not only what RFID is capable of, but by letting them know what it can't do. For instance, unless patron information is actually on the chip, it won't expose it.